What's our buddy doing? Oh, okay.
Does that answer your question, Chuck?
You ready? Okay. I'd like to call this Finance Committee meeting of Monday, January 25th, 2021 to order. If we could all stand for the invocation and pledge. Ms. Field, would you lead us in an invocation, please?
Sure. Let's pray. God, thank you so much for your gifts and blessings to us. I thank you for the hard work of every single person here and our desire to just move this city forward in the best possible direction. I pray for wisdom and discernment this evening. I pray that our words are pleasing to you and that you just continue to bless us and protect us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Mr. Hannon, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Caroline, please call roll.
Mr. Lampa? Mr. Rudiger?
Present.
Ms. Wagner?
Here.
Mrs. Field?
Present.
Mr. Kosisco?
Here.
Mr. Ring?
Here.
Mr. Hannon?
Here.
Motion to excuse Mr. Lamper. I'll entertain a motion to excuse.
So moved. Oh,
Second.
sorry.
Third.
First and second to excuse Mr. Lampa. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. That is item 4, disposition of minutes, regular Finance Committee meeting of October 26, 2020, and regular Finance Committee meeting of December 28, 2020.
Motion to accept as presented. Second.
First and second to accept as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, they are accepted. Item 5, monthly financial report. Ms. Essery.
Thank you, Mr. Wayne. So we have another year behind us. December 2020 was actually, we closed the year, and I'm very happy to say that we did very well in 2020. So for salaries and wages, we ended up just as we predicted, so that was good. General fund expenses were at 93.78%, so we were below. We were able to have a lot of expenses go down because we were able to move some of the wages for police and fire to the coronavirus relief fund, so that was definitely helpful in the general fund. Total expenses were also below target at 90%. The good news is, on the opposite end, revenues for the general fund were about 108%, and total revenues were at 101%. So we definitely did very well. As far as the carryover balance, I had talked about it. We had about a $2 million carryover, and a lot of that had to do with the CARES money. About $697,000 was from the CARES because we were able to allocate things that were supposed to be in the general fund and had already been expended in the general fund to the local coronavirus relief fund. So that was for wages, Medicare, pension for police and fire, some biohazard cleaning for the buildings, the Proud City website. We had made a down payment, so some of that was in there. Some cleaning supplies, PP&E, so that was definitely very helpful. We did come in under budget on certain items like for our RETA fees, health insurance, workers' compensation, so that was helpful. And then there were some wages that also came in under budget. And then revenues on the other side, for the building department, we came in about $435,000 over what we budgeted, and we had made budget amendments during the year, so that was definitely helpful. Statutory, we did receive the BWC employer premium refund that was $555,000, so that definitely helped. So, and I think the good thing about the $2 million is it really helps over the past few years when we had deficit spends in 18 and 19, that $2 million really did offset that. So we're actually, because between the 3 years, we're at a net $523,000. So I think overall with the general fund, that's very good news. So I did want to talk about, we did receive our January collections. They were down, so that is, I don't want to cause concern yet. I stated in my email, we want to make sure that we kind of wait for the first quarter to kind of see where we are, but we were, we should be at 8.33%, and we're right around 7%. So we're definitely down for January, but we're hoping February and March kind of ramp up and we start seeing where we need to be. So good news for 2020. So anybody have any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Esri. Yeah, I just wanted to clarify, so the January revenue that you just spoke of, it's down about 21%, right? And most of that comes from net profit though, right?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Mr. Rudiger?
Thank you.
But they were all down.
Yeah.
But the majority of it was the net profit.
Ms. Esser, you stated that revenues were up, were at 108% for last year. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Now, does that include CARES money as revenues, or is that totally separate?
So it does, but the 108% was just in the general fund. So that is, that CARES money would not be there.
Okay.
And even though we received the CARES money, we budgeted the CARES money. So this was, the budget would be 100%.
Okay.
So us getting the 101 in total, we actually received more revenue than budget.
What in your opinion, do you feel made the biggest difference in coming in over 100%? Was it any new businesses or just increased tax revenue, or?
We did have, the income tax, we were right at budget. We were at 99.63%, so we came in at budget. I think it was the building department revenue, because we were 407,000 over with that. And then also the BWC, that extra 500,000. That's a very big chunk.
Okay. That makes sense. Perfect, thank you.
No problem.
Any other discussion? All right. Thank you, Ms. Esri.
Thank you, Mr. Ring.
Moving on to new business. Item A, T6979, authorized modification and extension of TTX contract. Ms. Prokop.
When we did our upgrades for our computers, we decided to get everyone on the same management. The PD has always been on their own support, so we decided to move them over with us. So that is the modification part of it. And the extension is the second two portions of the TTX goods and services and the licensing for the fire department. Those all expire in January. So we would like to extend the contract so all of those licenses expire along with the contract, because we have to go out to bid next year. So it would be helpful if everything expired at one time so we didn't have to overlap in payments.
Great. Any discussion? There's no discussion. I'll entertain a motion to move this to tonight's full council.
So moved. Second.
I have a first and second to move this to tonight's full council. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, it is moved. Item B, T6980, contract with TTX for services and goods. Ms. Prokop, I'm assuming this and the next one are all part of that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. They're just yearly renewals for the goods and services, our sonic wow, our phone support, and typically we take them to Board of Control, but once they all go to Board of Control, they exceed the limit, so we decided to take it to council and just approve it as one lump sum of money.
Mr. Ring, if there's no discussion, I'll make a motion to move T6980 and T6981 to tonight's full council.
Second.
First and second to move T6980 and 81 to tonight's full council. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that is moved. All right, item D, T6982, authorized revolving loan fund administration agreement with the state. Ms. Esri.
Thank you, Mr. Ring. This is a normal agreement that occurs every 3 years. We received the agreement from the State of Ohio Office of Community Development, and this deals with our revolving loan fund. Basically, we have to have this passed by February 1st, so I didn't receive this until January 8th, so I do apologize for not going on the last meeting, but because of timing, this was the meeting that it fell on. But we passed the same agreement 3 years ago, and this agreement is just being presented in order for us to be compliant, and this would be for our 704 revolving loan fund.
Any discussion?
No.
Mr. Rudiger?
Thank you. Ms. Esri, just for clarification, this is the revolving loan fund where businesses can take out a loan, and we're kind of the the middleman per se, and then.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, there's certain criteria and everything. We do have one that's being paid back right now, the Technology House. We also have used the monies for the demolition for the Palms Motel, and also we were granted for phase 1, if you will, of the demolition for the City Hall. So this definitely can be used for just different business type functions as well for loans. And then, like you said, the state kind of gives us the money, and then we in turn then can loan that out, as long as it's approved through the state.
Perfect. Thank you. No more questions?
Ms. Field?
I have none, so I'll make a motion to move this to tonight's full council.
Second.
First and second to move this to the night's full council. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, it is moved.
Thank you.
Item E, T6983, that was a typo on there, so if you want to correct that. A contract with Everbridge for reverse 911 Nixle services. Chief Wayne.
Thank you. What we're looking for is the $6,150 to pay the invoice for Everbridge, which pays our Nixle. That is our paging service that residents, or actually anyone that works or has use for it, to sign up for in the city. We can page out information on road closures, road alerts, missing individuals, if there's a car crash, flooding, we use it for all kinds of purposes like that, for our department, the fire department, and for the service department. So I know we signed up for the paid portion of the program in 2020, and our usage jumped up significantly. Since we joined the paid portion of the program, we also increased by 5,000 last year. So I'm quite hopeful that we'll do a lot more out of it even so this year.
Thank you, Chief. Yeah, this is a great tool. I have, I've used Nixle for a while before pay, or the free and I guess the paid now. It's great, real-time information for our residents. Can you tell me though what the difference is between the paid and the free? Why we switched to the paid as opposed to using the free? Is there a limit on how many users we can have on the free, or?
The paid gave us a lot more options on what we can use and how we can use it. With the paid, we can also do landlines and text message, and I don't believe we had a limit to what we can do. Now, we are rather, I guess you might say, discriminating on how many that we send out, just because we don't want to overload our public with too many, because then people stop using it, and we definitely want to keep the information source there if we need it.
Mr. Ring, if I may, I believe, with the free version, we weren't allowed to do, road floodings and stuff like that. It was strictly emergency, there's a tornado on the way, that kind of thing, or something along that lines. I remember the discussion about it. We weren't allowed to use it for what we were using it for.
Got it.
Just critical.
Ms. Field, you had a question?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Ring. You actually asked a couple of questions that I had. As far as, I do recall that it was free at one point, so it's definitely a great system. I want to keep doing it. So basically, just to clarify, we're paying so that people who have landlines can use it? Is that?
That's one of the services that we have. We've also added additional services that we can use. As Mr. Reed mentioned, we have different levels that we can choose from, and different levels that people can sign up for. So if you want only the critical advisories, you can sign up for those. If you want the traffic advisories, you can sign up for those. It gives the users the options to sign up for the level of alerts that they want.
Okay, and this is annually $6,000?
Yes.
Okay. And how will residents know what to sign up for and how to do that? Will the police department put out some type of, how will they know? How will residents know how to sign up for this?
It's on our website.
Do you think there's I feel like it would be valuable to communicate it in another way. I don't know how many people visit the website and look for information like that. I think it would be great if it could be communicated in some way. I don't know how. Maybe in the,
Maybe in the center, the city square, the billboard could put something.
Yes, or-
Obviously on Facebook and
Facebook.
Twitter
just think getting
pages
it
and.
out there besides just, it's on our
Yeah,
website.
there's links to it on our social media as well.
Okay,
Maybe we could make announcements as opposed to links, at least every so often.
yeah. I
We
think
could,
that's
we
a
could also
good
put it in the
idea.
newspaper so both of those people could read it.
Okay, yes. Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? No, seeing none.
Make a motion to move this to tonight's full council?
Second?
First and second to move this to tonight's full council. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, it is moved. Item F, T6984, contract with RKS Biohazard Division for cleaning services. Mr. Mayor?
Real quick, Justin, did you guys hit item C, T6981?
Yep.
Yeah. We combined it with B.
Okay, it was just combined, all right, cool. This is for the de-option, I guess, of, I don't want to say de-option, but the disinfecting of City Hall, to continue that contract with RKS, and let's have the details if you need them.
Is this just for City Hall, or is this for all the municipal buildings?
All municipal buildings.
Okay.
Except police, correct? Except police, yes.
Do we have a separate service for police, I would imagine then?
What's the only
Well, they got something sprayed a while ago that they're using.
Okay. Mr. Whitaker?
That was gonna be my first question. And then, now, since this is in 2021, this doesn't apply to any kind of CARES money or anything like that, correct?
So as part of the budget amendment, you'll notice that we received word on December 30th, of all days when everything expired, that the government decided to extend the use of CARES money until December 31st, 2021.
Oh, wow.
So they did that. So we really didn't have much money, but we had the last PO that was open, RKS closed with $1,220 in it. So we're going to use that, plus the balance from just closing POs, spending and then closing for about $135. So that's where the $1,355 comes from, that we will be using first from the local coronavirus relief fund 220, and then the remaining will be part of the budget, because we did budget $18,000 to accommodate some of the biohazard cleaning in 2021.
Perfect.
Ms. Field?
Thank you. So how frequent is this bill? Is this one annual check, like one time, or is this monthly? I'm sorry, I'm looking at this.
It's a weekly service they would provide. I don't know if Missy, you want to talk more?
Oh, so this is our weekly rate?
The $995 is a weekly rate, and I believe we have roughly $19,000 budgeted, Jenny, is that correct?
Yeah, with the two, correct, with the two items.
Okay, so we could go every other week for 8 weeks, or, it would be 18 weeks if we went every week, or we could spread it out for almost a year if we wanted to. Or, I guess it depends on how much we need. We'll start cleaning up, and when we don't need it, then we could stop service, but he'll bill us monthly.
Okay. And how much did we, prior to COVID, what was our expense for cleaning the building? 'Cause this is extra, right, and more expensive?
Correct. Yeah, so City Hall is $1,551. Services, I think, $630, and then I think police is $1,197. So it's around $3,400 a month for cleaning. But that's the normal cleaning. That's mopping, vacuuming, cleaning the restrooms, things like that. This is biohazard, where they're spraying and disinfecting everything.
So this is an extra $4,000 a month if we
Okay,
were to
that
do it
was-
every week.
That was,
I'm sorry, the 4,000 was, I'm sorry, Ms. Fields' question, where she's asking what we pay for the normal
No,
cleaning.
yeah, no, I understand, but this is $995 a week when the service is performed, so it'd be about $4,000 a month on top of the $3,400 that we spend for the regular cleaning, right?
Correct.
Okay.
and we,
And it all depends too, how many vehicles they spray and everything like that too.
How often do we anticipate using it? Sorry, Julie, I don't mean to step
no,
on your
that's,
toes.
no, it's,
That's entirely up to, I guess, council or mayor, however, how often you guys want to spray.
I mean, how effective is it if we use it once a month, does it really do any good? If we're not using it every week, or if we're not using it often enough, what?
Just,
I'm sorry, I don't have their contract, I don't know if you recall, did they say that it was 7 days?
It's good for about 7 days.
Okay.
So we get 18 weeks that we have budgeted for right now. So the first 18 weeks of the year will be covered, and then we'll have to figure something else out if this virus doesn't stay away.
Well, I hope it does not last that long.
Well, I would venture to say it's probably gonna last a lot longer, but Ms. Field, were you finished? I'm sorry. I cut in
no,
front of
you asked questions that I was thinking as well. Yeah, I mean, if this is what we're required to do, but I would just throw out there, there will always be viruses, so that's all.
Thank you, Ms. Field. Mr. Kosisco?
I think we need to think and talk about this carefully. My concern is that the virus is still here, of course, and I haven't seen any major turns to the better for it. There's a new virus coming in. I think some of you have heard of that. And I believe it hit Ohio today, if I'm not mistaken, this virus from Africa. My suggestion is, I know it's expensive, is to keep this weekly at this point. You got people coming and going that will come in our front door, pay their water bill, whatever the case may be. You never know who's bringing what. None of us know. None of us know if we're carrying it. I think at this time, we can look at it further at a later date. I would keep it weekly because things do change in a day or so, in an instant. My suggestion is, I know the cost is there, but how do you put a cost on a human being?
Chuck, I agree with you. I wasn't saying I was opposed.
Oh,
I was
no,
just I was just
yeah.
clarifying how long it lasted, and because we were saying we had enough for 18 weeks. I just wanted to know, well, do we have to do it every week, or should we?
Yeah.
And if the fact of the matter is that the cleaning is good, or the disinfectant is good for about 7 days, then I agree we should do it weekly at this point. For what we have at least budgeted, and then when we get to that point, we can bring it back
We can
up.
look at it again, yeah. Thank you.
Any other discussion on the topic?
Yeah. If there's no further discussion, I'll make a motion to move this to tonight's full council.
Second.
The first and second to move this to tonight's full council. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, it is moved. Item G, T6985, ratify online auction of unneeded property in 2020. Chief Reinholtz and Mr. Benny.
Oh, you have to, I think it's the second mic or the first mic.
I thought it was on already.
Should be, huh?
It should be on.
Sounded like it was on.
It was on when you tapped it. Yeah, it was on.
Hello.
Yep, hello, good.
Hello. We purchased the SCBA with the AFG grant last year for over $200,000. And what we were left with were our old air pack units. We can't really use them, the cylinders expire by summer, so tried donating them. Went to the Portage County Chiefs Association, but nobody really wants them. So the next best thing was, well, let's try govdeals.com. And I was under the impression back in 2012, at council, that's when we first adopted the internet. And I know the police department in 2019 did the same thing. Well, unbeknownst to me, and I have to apologize, it's an annual renewal to go on internet. I thought as once legislation was passed, then that was the ordinance, and then it would allow us to sell items on Gov Deals. So Mr. Benny enlightened me and has worked hard on coming up with legislation which would approve of us, the city, to actually sell these SCBA's. Now, surprisingly, we're going to try selling for shipping costs, trying to donate to the fire department. Well, it's a bid type process, and the bids went up to $3,700. Yeah, unbeknownst, that's not our intention, was to make money. So after everything's all taken out, it comes to like $2,700 they were sold for a department in New York State. So what I'm asking for is council to approve the amendment or the ordinance to actually permit us to sell it online, and that's something I'm going to have to every year come up with just to renew it.
Thank you. Mr. Benny, do we have any selling equipment like this used? Do we have any legal liability if something occurs? Do they use it in the wrong way? Is there any?
Well, if you see the next ordinance, I put language in there, they're buying it as is.
Do they know that? I mean,
Well, actually, we told them,
Right, okay.
The cylinders expire different times during the summer, you can't use it. There's NIOSH, there's OSHA, NFPA standards out there that the whole fire service is supposed to be abiding to. So, and I mentioned to the chief up there numerous times, they're only good this summertime.
do we have any control over who purchases these? Because I'm just wondering, like, what if it just a random citizen bought it and, blew their face off? Like, I don't know, but something happened and then they come back and say, well, you sold it to someone who wasn't qualified to use it. I'm just worried about that type of stuff with this online, because you don't know who's buying it.
As long as you make it known and clear that you're selling as is.
Doesn't matter?
No.
Okay. Any further discussion? Mr. Rudiger?
I know we've donated a lot of things to other departments. I'd kind of like us to see if there's a value to things before we donate them. I'd like to see us auction more things off if possible.
That's my intent with the move to the new station, is we're going through the storage rooms, uncovering things that are no value. Like we have 14 Toughbook computers. Two of them don't work. They're 14 years old, and they're just paperweights. So that's something, we like to put out there, and if somebody wants to buy them, that's fine. And with GovDots, you put it out there for 10 days. There's a contract how you have to operate, just like eBay,
Sure.
They take their percentage. But I would like to use it more just to see if we can't dispose of some of the stuff instead of throwing it in a dumpster.
Right.
I agree.
Right. If there's no further discussion, I'll make a motion to move this to tonight's full council.
Second.
First and second to move this to tonight's full council. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, it is moved. Item H, T6986, allow internet auctions of unneeded property in 2021. I'm assuming this is...
This is to allow us to do it this year. The chief's indicated there were things that he plans on putting on govdeals.com, so I incorporated this in with the other ordinance.
Great.
There's no discussion. I'll make a motion to move this to tonight's full council. Also.
Second.
First and second to move this to tonight's full council. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, it is moved. Item I, T6987, amend ordinance number 2016-116, CRA legislation. Mr. O'Malia.
Good evening, council. Tonight I'm asking you to put up for a first read legislation that makes changes to our existing CRA program. We've used this program numerous times over the past year for the base spec building, the Simply 3 expansion, and the butcher shop. All we're doing here is an amendment to the ordinance. We're not actually repealing and replacing. We're really just doing a couple of minor material changes. As noted in last week's correspondence that I sent to the big thing on the business side, is that we're getting rid of the matrix system, which caps how much we can give as an incentive based on jobs, payroll, etc. It's just needlessly complicated. And it also will increase the maximum term that we're able to go up to 15. Every surrounding community around us has a 15-year term. For whatever reason, we opted for a 10. One material change from a residential standpoint is an automatic 15-year, 100% abatement of new structures for residents. So whether they're making an addition or new construction, I talked substantially, quite a bit with the law firm we chose to hire for this, and they said, well, do you have any applications over the past 4 years? I said, no. Well, clearly, the incentive package is not giving me the desired results, and I couldn't argue with them. We also tighten up what we define as residential. Anything where 2 units, we're going to consider multi-family, and those would not be eligible for an incentive. Are there any questions on this that I haven't addressed already?
Yeah, Patrick, can you explain or just enlighten us on where our CRA districts are? Does it entail the whole city?
No. Back in whenever, we had one CRA that basically covered 2 parcels over on, I want to say it was Miller Parkway. Since then, in 2016, which is this legislation that we're amending, we created a map. And it kind of goes, it covers all of our industrial area, it covers most of our state route 14, but we did not cover like where the new Revolving and the new Aspen Dental is. But it does cover the square, it does cover Market Square. It covers a lot of our residential neighborhoods, but I know that it only covers a portion of, I believe it determines the Arrowhead Trail development. So it's the drive, neighborhoods like that. I mean, it's in the map that should be part of the original ordinance.
Yeah, I have the map. I knew the answer. I just wanted you to kind of put it on record so people understood, or if anybody watching doesn't understand what it is, just understand. So thank you, Patrick.
You're welcome. Thanks, sir.
Mr. Rudiger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Amelia, you had said that homes that are more than 2 families wouldn't qualify because then they're considered multifamilies.
Mm-hmm.
So what about, so is that stated correctly, more than 2 families, or is it 2 families or more? So like duplexes?
No, exactly. Okay, so what this is really trying to do is saying that if there's an apartment building, you're not eligible.
Right.
Okay, like if it's a duplex, you're good.
So is it more than 2, or is it 2 or more?
More than 2.
We'll pull up the actual legislation, which you guys are reviewing, so I can point to where that is at.
Okay.
Section 2, Jonathan.
Section 2, for purposes of CRA number 2, this council hereby determines that a residential dwelling is a structure or remodeling composed of 2 family units or less. This council further determines that no CRA exemptions are to be granted for real property within CRA number 2 used or to be used for multifamily residential structures.
Okay.
So anything
So
above
1 or 2 is, okay. And then
Ineligible.
more than 2 would not be included. So 1 or 2 is, 3 or more is not. Got it. Okay, that was it.
Any other discussion?
I will make a motion to send this to tonight's full council for first read.
Second?
First and second to send this tonight's full council. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, it is moved.
Thank you.
Item J, discuss setting aggregate natural gas rate for October 2022. Mr. Lampa is not here. Ms. Prokop?
Good morning.
I was just going to let her go.
Yeah.
Mr. Lloyd and I have been talking with Tom Bash about setting our rates for 2022, and now is the time to go out to request rates. So he sent us a price request sheet for 2022, but our contract ends with Buckeye Energy on 10/1 of 21. So we need to discuss if we want to enter into a new contract with Buckeye Energy to try to set a price for our residents in 2022, or we can shop around, we have options, I need to know a direction.
So my general preference always is to shop around. Let's find out what else is out there if we can. Mr. Bellish has done a good job in general, but I would love to see what other brokers may have to offer and just compare. So that'd be my preference.
100% agree.
Anybody else have a differing opinion? Okay. So I think that's where we'd like to go in this program. We definitely would like to get something set, and especially if we can get it set before any energy prices increase, that would be great as well. But we'd like to see some options. Mr. Chen?
Yeah, that was gonna be my only concern, was if now is the time to look at or lock in a lower price, and our contract doesn't end until October, that we might not get a better price if we don't lock in with them.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think we need to move somewhat quickly on this, so I don't know how quickly we can, but, energy prices may not be stable for very long, so.
Sure. I believe 2 years ago we shopped around, and I still have all my files from MOPEC was in there and 2 other companies. So I will reach in my file and contact those companies and set up some appointments.
Great, thank you, Ms. Prokop.
No problem.
Any other discussion?
Do we wanna move this to
Yeah,
next month?
Yep.
Make a motion to move this to
do you wanna-
next month's finance?
Do you want to put it on, how long do you need, Ms. Prokop? Would it next month be okay?
I think that would be fine.
Okay.
Make a
Sorry.
motion to move this to next month's finance meeting?
Second.
First and second to move this to February finance. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, it is moved. Item K, discuss BWC dividend payment funds use. I put this on the agenda because I wanted to start discussions on potentially using the workers' comp dividend payment we got for the residents. I want to start the discussion, but I want to make it clear that I'm not suggesting we do this right now. I had a discussion with Ms. Essery. The fact that we are down pretty significantly in revenue for the month, really like to make sure that flattens out or evens out before we go spending money on wants as opposed to needs. But I would like to start the discussion. I've had a discussion with a few people in the administration and council, and one of the things that I'd like to see at least discussed, and if it's a possibility, would be to build the amphitheater we're talking about. I think there's probably enough funds to do it if we do it the right way, and that's something that gives directly back to all the residents. Everybody can enjoy it. The other thing that I would like to see, or I think that would be a good use, would be to use the rest of it or more of it to put into the road program. Because we're so light on funds this year and next year in the road program due to the large projects we have, I think that in order to keep on the schedule that we talked about last year, the 5-year schedule, even maybe advance it a little, I think we could get a good amount more roads done using it for that. And again, this is only if we have the ability to use it, if we don't need it for salaries and other things to that nature, depending on where our income comes in. But I just wanted to start the discussion, so I'd like to hear council's thoughts, and Mr. Rudiger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Both great ideas. I think one thing I'd also like to echo is if we are able to get an amphitheater built, we could end up saving ourselves money on rental fees in the future that we had already discussed over the last several months. So,
Yeah.
and it sounds like it's something that's going to be built anyway eventually. So it's not, I mean, it is a want, but at the same time, it's a need because it's something we're going to have, and it's something that's going to save us money in the long run.
And I agree. I think, and again, I just think that's it's something we can do with the amount of money that we have that's feasible, that we don't have to increase taxes, or we don't have to take from something else to make it happen. Because this money we got was basically found money. It was not expected. It wasn't budgeted. It was, just something that we got.
And as you said, it's something that can be, that's tangible, that the residents can see, that they can use, they can enjoy. And it's something I'd like this in the future to be able to build around and have concerts in the park.
Sure.
Truck nights, food truck nights, whatever it is in the future. I think it'd be really great for the city. And obviously the roads. Great ideas.
Ms. Field?
Thank you, Mr. Ring. Yeah, I really like that idea. In talking with, I'm sure, Mr. Meidinger and so forth, how much did you think the amphitheater would, did you have kind of an estimate?
So Mr. Meidinger thought that the structure would probably be at least around 100. And with the site work and everything, I'd like to probably look at 300 of it to be earmarked for it. I think
Okay.
that would probably be close. Maybe it won't be enough. Maybe it will. We'd have to actually, once we figure out what we want to do. And I know Mr. Hannon has reached out to Mr. Meidinger and asked him to react to the stage committee that was paused during COVID to kind of have those discussions. But I think that would be a good amount to start with, just to give us an idea of what we talk to someone and say, hey, what can you do for this amount of money? And see what it comes up as.
You're saying like 300,000?
Yeah.
I just wanted to clarify. So, and I think I've echoed this before. I mean, I love that idea, and I think there's multiple things that we all would love to see happen in our city, but I would prioritize over that of some type of field house.
I don't think we can build a field house for $300,000 though. That's going to be $1 million.
I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, I guess we could. I mean, the problem is in order to get an actual cost for something like that, we're going to have to pay money
Right.
to have
I
it
agree.
engineered.
You're
So
going to need to-
we have to
yeah.
be careful. And I don't know. I know, Mayor, you and I had a brief discussion about this. Do you have any opinion on it, or?
We talked about putting together an RFP to get some concepts and some ideas on what we can do to move that portion forward. I understand Ms. Fields, her wanting this field house, but depending on what we get, it's depending on what it's going to cost us. And I think that the direction that we spoke about the other day, Justin, was the way that we need to go so that we can get a good set idea, a sound idea and a sound estimate of what it would cost us to do something like that. And I don't think that this was a part of this discussion tonight. We had talked and we had spoken with Mr. Kosciuszko along with the Family Days thing, and, we had decided, I believe, that we wanted to move forward on this amphitheater. And when we received this refund from Bureau of Workers' Comp and the estimates that Greg had put forth, we felt that this was the direction we're going to take. And this was part of the discussion we had the other day, Julie, was that every time we come up with an idea or something, we always go off in a different direction. And I've asked some of the members of council to let's decide on the direction we're going to go, and let's head in that direction. Every time we bring something up, something else comes up that, well, we should do this, or we should do this.
Well, Mr. Mayor.
We need to go, we need to find out what we want to do, and we need to go in that direction.
I
And
completely
that was the
agree.
whole purpose
However-
of bringing this discussion up tonight.
So to some extent, I can see where you're coming from and what you're saying, but I will add that the idea and concept of a field house has been something we've actually been talking about for years. And it's not just, oh, Julie Field wants a field house. There are countless residents who have approached me and said, wow, our city could really use a field house. And the idea of combining it with some type of parks and rec, because we're in need of that as well. If there is money, I don't want to just, we have just enough to spend on this, let's just let's just build the amphitheater because we have enough to do that. I want us to have a plan, and if something is going to come up, like spending a significant chunk of change on an amphitheater, then I'm going to throw out, I'm going to mention, wait a second, what about a field house? And I want to keep that in mind. Just because we have money doesn't mean we need to just go out and quickly find something to spend it on. And I agree, we need a plan and we need to prioritize things. I will also say, it does, from my perspective, feel a lot like we need to get this stage for 4 days out of the year, and let's cover Streetsboro Family Days. And I am not saying anything negative about Streetsboro Family Days, but what I am saying is we have a whole community of people that I think could really benefit from a field house. And not everyone goes to Family Days. I understand the idea of an amphitheater. I think it's a great idea, and I think we should definitely look into something like that as well. I'm not saying we shouldn't do that. I love the idea of concerts in the park and food trucks and all of that. I love that idea too. All I'm saying is we do need to have a plan, and this isn't just me going in a different direction. This is something we've talked about and addressed for years, and I really think council needs to decide and administration needs to decide what direction we're going in. And quite frankly, I didn't know it was an amphitheater. I thought we were still in a state of let's figure it out and let's prioritize, unless something else has been addressed at some point. But that's where I'm coming from. So.
Well, the amphitheater is not just for 4 days. The amphitheater can be issued over October. It'll be something that other people could use. We can have movies in the park.
Yes.
We can have stage shows on there. There's a whole lot of things that we can have. And we are trying to get a plan. But we talk about this all the time, and we've come to the juncture where the administration has got to send out a request for proposals to have someone actually come and take a look at what we can do and where we can do it. We talk about it all the time, but we've never been given a direction. It's always, well, we should do this, we should do this. Well, we're going to take the ball by the horns and we're going to go in a direction.
Well, and that's why I'm throwing out. I get that, which is why I'm throwing out there. If we're going into a direction, my preference would be to go in the direction of a field house.
Well, we'll have to talk about how we're going to afford that then.
Sure.
Because there is something to that. But we wanted to do something that, and I spoke with a few other council members, and we wanted to do something that we could do at this time with the funding that we have available that would have a significant benefit for all the residents of the cities. You could do driving movies. I mean, you could do a whole multitude of things out there.
Which sounds great, and perhaps that is.
And I wanted to, we have an additional $400,000 for our road program this year, which is not going to pay the loan roads because we have no PWC roads that we're doing. And I wanted to take and designate some of this money to add to that road program so that we can stay on the program that we've had. And I mean, it's not a deep pot of money, but it's something that we can use for our residents, and the roads are for all the residents too. And I mentioned we do need something like that, but it's going to take a lot of discussion once we determine what we want and how much it's going to cost to determine how much it's going to cost us to build something like that. And when we get through with this, we'll have a much better idea of what it's going to cost us. We can talk to a blue in the face, but until we put solid numbers on it, and until we know what we're looking at, it's just pie in the sky.
Ms. Wagner?
So I feel like that you can argue back and forth all day about this situation. At the end of this, we're going to be nowhere still. But the field house is something I think a lot of people want, as is the amphitheater. And I know it costs money to get bids, but if you're getting it in the future anyways, why not get the bids now? So when you're looking at your house, you've got your dream home compared to what you can maybe afford down the line. You kind of compare the two and decide what you want. So if you get the numbers and the figures, then we know where we would be at a field house. We know what we have for money and where we can spend it and which direction to go at this time. But say the field house is just a little too much, but we know where to get that. Or if we're close to it but not there, we know we still just a little bit more savings and we could get that because this will be a little bit more, not as expensive. I think it'll be easier if we have figures,
Agreed, yeah.
then we'll be able to make a better choice.
Yeah.
Mr. Hannon?
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Field, or Ms. Wagner.
Yeah, I hadn't mentioned anything yet, because we had a meeting the other day, and we were having another meeting this week. But I'm on the core concept committee, and we were talking about the City Hall property. So I brought in Mr. Lampa, who's also on that committee with me, and then Mr. Ring, and we talked with the mayor and Mr. Amalia and Mr. Meitinger about some different options. So we're meeting again this week, but we were going to try to put something out to try to get proposals of what we would want in a city hall and a field house. So then that way we have, a concept, and then we can, I believe the next step would have been to hire a firm to put that together to see how much it would cost, and then decide. Obviously, it comes down to what we can afford, but at least we have kind of an idea of what we want. So I was hoping to plan, or to say something to the rest of council after our meeting this week and see if it was going to go on to another agenda. But I know I've had a discussion at least with a couple people, so something is hopefully coming out of that.
Yeah, part of that, I think part of that meeting was, a large part of that meeting is actually discussing field house.
Yeah.
And how we get to it, especially, the fact that we need a city hall and we want a field house. Yeah. And, I agree with Mr. Hannon. We talked at length about, and I agree with all of you, what's going to be the best path forward to get those things. And I think, to Ms. Wagner's statement, that yes, we need at least a basic understanding of what these things are going to cost, where they, if we, I'm going to put it out, I'm in fan of keeping the city property a municipal center. Right. I'm in fan of having a city hall there, maybe even having a city hall field house complex or building, something to that nature, where the fire station's already there. I'm just in favor of it. We own the property, it's a prime piece of land, it's big enough to do it. If we can create a complex like that there, my opinion, it's in the center. I just think it's the best place for it. So we are having those, at least we've started some discussions that we can all then discuss when it's actually, there are numbers and things to that nature. I honestly, and this is just my opinion, but from my experience, don't think that the $300,000 I want to earmark for, like the amphitheater would be a drop in a bucket to, for something like that. So, and again, this is why I just want to bring up for discussion that by no means we're looking to make any kind of decisions. I just wanted to bring it up because, one, we don't know if we're even going to have the money, to be honest with you. We're down in revenue. So I wanted to discuss it to try to see if we can get to some direction. And it sounds like the direction is, let's get some RFPs, let's get some basic numbers, and then figure out, where we go from there on each of the projects.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
if I may, I completely agree, and that's kind of all I was trying to say when I said, hey, what about a field house? Just to make sure that is thrown out there, because that's something that I will advocate for. Thank you.
Mr. Hannon?
And I was just going to say too that, and my plan was to, hopefully bring this to council, because the reason why I even had that meeting in the first place was because the one core concept meeting, they were asking me as the only council person there at the time questions about what we wanted to do with the property, and I wasn't comfortable answering that for the body, so I brought some other people in, and whenever we were to, bring this to, I would hope we'd bring it to a meeting, because I don't want it to seem like, me and Mr. Ring are making decisions
No.
for a field
Yeah.
house.
No, yeah, no.
So hopefully, that whatever comes out of our meeting this week, we can put it on an agenda maybe and have some more discussions about what all of us want in a field house, potentially.
Yeah, and again, back to the point is I really do think that the next step is to get the numbers.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
whatever we do, if the meeting we're going to have Wednesday is to talk about what amenities and stuff that, we've heard the residents want in the field house. We've already these discussions have already happened up here a lot. And then once we get even just that base thing down, it doesn't have to be exact, but those base wants, then Glenn and the administration can go out and get those numbers. So I just think that's where we should be at and how we're going to move forward. We can't make decisions without the numbers, so. Mr. Rudiger?
Thank you, Mr. Ring. Question is for anybody who can answer it. Does anybody know of any other municipalities around the area that have a field house that we could look at, get ideas from, compared to? I mean, I know rec centers that are in the area, but I think that we're not looking for
Ravenna has one, a field house.
part of the high school, you mean?
Yeah, it's back by the stadium, but they
Right.
call it the field house, so they have like a
That's
track
true.
in there.
Yeah, I did a
track
Relay
goes-
for Life in there
The
before.
track goes above, so you can get full usage.
Yeah,
Because
that's a good-
Twinsburg is more of a rec center.
Right, that's rec center. Yeah, I did a Relay for Life in the Ravenna Field House, so I forgot about that one.
Yeah.
So I was just thinking of, and that, I don't know if it's owned by the schools or is it owned by the city? I assumed it was owned by the schools, so. I was-
Either, or it's
Right.
still,
Right, I was thinking with city, like, get some, if we're looking at implementing like the senior center and the rec department and just getting more ideas, I mean, that would be a good start, but if there's any municipalities that have one that have implemented their Parks and Rec department and some other things, or even implemented into a city hall,
Yeah,
we're interested to see, different ideas and what we can come up with, but.
when we were spitballing during the meeting, and that's all we were doing, I brought up, if it was possible, and it'd probably be cheaper to build, is to incorporate City Hall and the field house into one building. Just different wings, basically, because now you're not building, you're not creating two different construction sites. It's just one big zone. So I don't know how, I don't know if it's cheaper or not. I would assume it is, but I could be
Right.
completely wrong. But that was just one idea, So again, I think we have a direction, at least for now.
Okay.
Mr. Cisco?
As in the past, most of you know, I've been against a field house because I can picture that on another piece of property. If this would be incorporated with City Hall, I think it's a great idea. We've got the seniors that we can take care of and so forth. I'd be on board with that.
Great.
Now we're talking about millions
Yeah.
between City Hall and so forth.
Yep.
And that's gonna have to be talked at length, of course, and then we'd have to figure out how the hell we're gonna find the money to do that. I appreciate the discussion with the amphitheater. Of course, I feel that, and John has brought it up, it could be used a heck of a lot more than 4 days.
Oh, yeah,
There's so many programs I'm sure Greg can come up with,
yeah.
besides some other outsiders, car shows and that type of thing can be done, not just exclusive at family days. So, of course, I'm still pushing for some type of building that we could have Streetsboro Family Days at. And I guess I could throw this out first for this year. We're not certain yet about this year, 2021. I think the committee is going to look at March, probably April the latest, whether we're going to do this year again. Like we had to cancel last year, I believe it was in March. So we're tiptoeing through the ideas whether we're going to have it this year or not. We'd love to. We're hoping to, and as of right now, it is a go. But if things change in the next couple of months, as far as renting a stage would be out. But we'll make sure that the committee does get back to the city and let the city know what's going on. So, but yeah, I like the idea of incorporation with City Hall on our property. I'm good with that. I think I've voiced that more than once, so I appreciate the time.
Thank you. Any further discussion right now? Again, this was just to open it up, so. Okay, hearing none, we'll move on. Item L, T6978, amend 2021 annual appropriations. Ms. Essery.
Thank you, Mr. Lane. I'm not sure if everyone saw their email, but I did send an email this morning with regard to adding, amending basically, to add an Exhibit B with regard to the service garage being built. POs were not encumbered in 2020 for Ohio Edison and potentially Dominion, so this Exhibit B would allow for sure to be able to pay the one invoice received for the new utility service at the service garage for Ohio Edison, and then the other $10,000 would be for the potential new utility service for Dominion. I didn't want to go over one quick thing with regard to Exhibit A. We haven't really done this, but because we had to pay almost $1 million at the beginning of the year for the State Route 14 City Share project, it took our balance and dropped it down very low for the capital fund, so we need the kind of year to build the balance up. But in the meantime, there's going to be different departments that are going to be looking to make capital expenditures. So I did put in Exhibit A for an advance. So an advance is different than a transfer. It's just basically a loan that the general fund's making to the capital fund. So basically at the end of the year, when the fund has built up the balance, we'll be able to pay back the general fund. So like I said, this is kind of like a as-needed basis. I'm hoping that we won't need it, but just in case we do, I do have that money in there because we don't want to have a negative fund balance when we go to do any expenditures. We also talked about briefly with regard to the State of Ohio Office of Budget and Management. The controlling board did agree to extend the coronavirus relief funds through December 31st, 2021. So as we discussed in an earlier item, that $1,220 from our old PO and $135 from the carryover balance, we're going to be using that for the biohazard cleaning. So I want to make sure we spend every penny we possibly can out of the coronavirus relief fund. So that's something else different. But I don't know if anyone had any questions, especially on the advance, because that's something, like I said, we don't normally do.
Okay. Yeah. So I had a quick question on the advance, and then I had one other one.
Sure.
If for some reason our revenues stay poor or low, I'll make that distinction. Are there any ramifications if the 401 can't repay the 101 by the end of the year?
No, we can have an outstanding advance carry through the next year. That's something the auditors will look at. It's just they're not. The main hope is that we would be able to pay it back by the end of the year. But if we had to do it into the next year, we can do that as well.
Great. And the other question is probably not for you, Ms. Essery, but this occurred with the fire station as well. How, when we are planning on building these buildings, do we not include gas lines and electric line? Like, how do we not, why are these surprises every time we're building a building? Oh, we need an extra 10 grand to run the gas line. Why wouldn't we have known that from the get-go? I just don't understand.
So we did know about it. The problem was no PO was turned in to the finance department before the end of the year. And so when I was building the budget, I had just assumed that everything was taken care of because we encumbered we appropriated all the monies in the 2020 budget. So the contingency was part of that and the utility costs were part of that, but the POs weren't turned in. So the money was appropriated, it's just the POs were not turned in.
Okay.
And so when the 2021 budget is moving forward, the line item didn't have anything in there with the assumption that everything was going to be encumbered in 2020.
Great, thank you. I'm just going to move down the line. Ms. Field?
Oh, thank you. So I just wanted to clarify, back up for item T6984, the biohazard cleaning services, that's coming from the coronavirus relief fund? Or
Only a little bit, Ms. Field.
How much
So,
is coming from it?
$1,355 will be coming from the coronavirus relief fund.
Oh, just one.
The remaining is
basically.
coming out of statutory 101-8153-41. So that was part of the 2021 budget.
Right, okay.
And because we had some monies that, basically because POs were closed, we had that $1,355 in the local coronavirus relief fund.
Okay, and so the local coronavirus relief fund, they stretched that out so we could use it through 2021 December, is that what you said?
That's correct.
But we-
we expended like 99% of the money in there.
Yeah, there are a couple things about that frustrate me, pretty much out of our hands, but one that, well, anyway, I don't need to get into it. Okay, thank you.
But I definitely want to make sure that whatever money is in there, we're spending. So that's why this is coming the way it is. I know it's kind of very odd amounts, but that's the reason why.
That's okay, I understand, Jenny, you've done a great job with all of it. Thank
Well,
you.
thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Hannon?
I'm good.
Mr. Rudiger?
I think all my questions were answered with the exception of, Ms. Essery, do we need to amend the amended appropriations? Do we need to?
Yes, yes, please. If you could amend it to include Exhibit B that was presented, I would really appreciate that.
I'll
Thank
make a
you.
motion to amend T6978 to include the Exhibit B that was presented to us in the emails.
Second?
First and second to amend the amendment. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that is amended. Any
There's
further?
no further discussion. I'll make a motion to send this to tonight's full council as amended.
Second.
First and second to send this to tonight's full council as amended. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, it is so. All right.
Mr. Ryan, can I just add one thing? I'm so sorry.
Sure. Yep.
Is that okay?
Yep.
Okay, I'm sorry. So I just wanted to say to you with the advance, I'm not planning on doing it unless we need to, and I will let council know at that point if we need to.
Oh, great.
Okay?
Yep.
Thank you.
All right, item 8, citizens' comments.
You're up, lady.
My name is Christine Moss, 185 David Drive, Statesboro, Ohio. I'm here to tell you about my poll plunge this year. This year will be a little bit different because of the coronavirus, and one of my teammates and I are doing it together. We decided to go into Lake Erie, but we're hoping to do it on the 20th of February. But if not, we will have to make some other decision. But as right now goes, I am just asking you guys whatever money you have, spare change, whatever you can give me is good. Thank you.
Mr. Rudiger.
Hey, Chrissy. If you can, you can set the podium. If you can move this to July 20th or August 20th, I'll jump in the lake with you.
That's right before Family Day.
That's why they won't. Even then, I probably
That would work out great.
$100 if you do it, for the charity,
In July or August?
in February, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Motz. Appreciate it, and we appreciate definitely everything you do for the cause, so it's great. And you're extremely brave, because there's no way on God's green earth that I'm going to get into the water in February. Outside.
Right.
All right.
You're much braver than I am.
Me too.
Any Any other citizens' comments? Seeing none. Announcements. A regular council meeting will immediately follow this meeting.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
First and second to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, we are adjourned. Mr. President, can I ask for a 5-minute recess, please? Sure. Thank you.
speech if you need to. We're ready.
Yeah, you're like, really? Where'd that?
A justification.
What was that?
Opinion are being heard.
You get Mike to zoom in for,
Yeah.
Then everybody dies.
I always threaten at work. I'm gonna go dispatch me happy so I can get my own like bed or nice comfy chair.
You on?
I'm on.
all right. I'd like to call this regular council meeting of Monday, January 25th, 2021 to order. Carolyn, can you please call roll?
Mr. Lampa, Mr. Rudiger,
Yes.
Mrs.
Here.
Wagner,
Present.
Yes.
Here.
Mrs. Field,
Present.
Mr. Kasisko,
Here.
Mr. Ring,
Here.
Mr. Hannon.
Here.
Motion to
excuse Mr. Lampa.
Second.
First and a second to excuse Mr. Lampa. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? He is excused. Item 3, disposition of minutes. Regular council meeting of Monday, January 11th, 2021.
Motion to accept as presented.
Second.
First and a second to accept. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Those are accepted. Item 4, citizens' comments. Item 5, reports, communications from departments, boards, and commissions.
Chief has his hand up.
Chief Eidholz.
The station update, everybody received a memo about the abrupt departure of our project manager, Dustin. Got along real well.
I was so
Real
shocked.
good guy.
I was shocked about that.
I know. So Derek, I don't know if you remember Derek coming there. He's the regional manager who oversees a lot of different projects. So he's kind of filling in, and he's brought in a guy named Joe. So over the last week, I can't tell you how many hours I've been sitting down talking to him. Because the process is, if we decide to have a change, it has to go to the architect, who then puts an RIF in, who then the builder gets a price for it, and then it comes back to whether it's an order request or if they're going to use it out of contingency. And so there were things that we had going on with Dustin, that we wanted a ceiling in the pantry. Well, he didn't get to that point of actually writing it, submitting it to GPD. So that's where we had to bring Derek up to what we talked about, Dustin and us. And it didn't get to the paperwork yet, because Dustin didn't get a chance to do that. So we were bringing that stuff up, and pretty much this whole week we were getting the RIFs down as to what the costs are. And it's going well, but there's just things that you just can't plan for. For example, they found out that the ventilation up in the fireman's dorm, where there's 10 dorms, because the attic space, the Conkoff area, is fire resistant, there is an airflow between each cubicle. So the engineers had a look at it, and they came up with either 4,000, almost 4,000, or 7,000. But it's got to come out of the owner contingency, which I'm guarding because I want to use that money for improvements. And just little things like that we've been working out. They put the water line through the electrical room. They're going to move that. That's $1,000. So it's just this little nickel and dimes that you guys that sit in on the meetings see.
That's not owner contingency though, right? The water line shouldn't be.
Well, some of them are, some aren't.
Well, the water line shouldn't be though,
Well, my
right?
understanding is, and this is according to the architect, the builder puts into the contract a 1 or 2% waiver that if they miss something, and you're going to miss things. There's things that
Like putting a water line through an electrical
yeah,
room.
they're off the hook. And that's just part of it. This has been a real learning experience for me. And finding out that which we originally wanted to build a station for, like Mr. Kasisko said, there's going to be overruns. There are going to be things that you say, well, I didn't think of that, as the owner, myself, that, it'd be much easier if we did this. But at the time, there's so many things that overwhelm you. And I'm very fortunate to have Captain Miller, who's a builder himself, looking over this with a fine-tooth comb, saying, well, wait a minute, that outlet has to go over here because we were too busy looking at something else. So everything's going fine. We're moving along. There'll be a meeting this Thursday at 8 o'clock with a lot of resolved issues and costs. So we're watching the owner contingency and the builder contingency come down as we're doing things to make sure we have enough left at the end in case something unexpected comes up. So it's still on schedule, end of April, beginning of May. And they're in there, they're painting and the HVAC and the sprinkler system and the drywall's going up. The only real problem we run into is the bay doors. The bay doors are out. The manufacturer didn't get them on time, and we have to wait. So another 4 weeks. So what they're doing is they got the plastic up in the doorways, but they have to heat it to paint it. So we're paying for the gas utility.
Yeah.
And slowly we're heating outdoors. They got plastic up. They're doing the best they can. So that's really been the only drawback, is not getting those doors in. And it's not really the construction, it's the contractor, subcontractor for the doors. So, just to give you an update. Everybody's got an activity sheet, what's been going on. We actually had a lady in her 80s having a heart attack, and it was that certain STEMI kind, which the funny EKG. We recognize it as medics, and we follow a whole different protocol, and we literally take them right to the cath lab. We give all the medicines they give in the emergency room, then they go to the cath lab and get a stent put in, and it was successful with her. She went to the cardiac cath lab, had a stent put in, and she'll be walking out of the hospital. And for us, those are the true saves. Years and years, decades ago, when I used to be on the squad, if we just got a heartbeat back, it was jump for joy. We had a save. But the person died later in the hospital. Then we used to fill up the person with so much epinephrine, adrenaline in the heart, that the heart would keep beating on forever, but they didn't walk out of the hospital. So the true save is when we can fix the problem or the symptom, in the heart, and then the person can actually be discharged without any loss of tissue, so they don't end up being on oxygen or having a chronic heart failure or a weakened heart because of that. So we had one of those, which is always encouraging. And then the COVID-19, our whole departments received both shots. I was unsuccessful in trying to get the PD. They're just sticking with the guidelines. They didn't consider them 1A, so I apologize. I couldn't do anything on that. But about 90% of the fire department has had both vaccinations effective last Thursday. And we had maybe 4 or 5 of them get sick, like they had the flu the next day. It wasn't me. I didn't even know. I'm too dumb. They might have gave me saline instead of the vaccine. Probably gave me water, because I didn't feel nothing. But we had some people actually come down sick after the second virus. Didn't affect manpower the way we spaced it out. So we're helping the health department on Thursdays, where we're sending some medics down there so people can come in the Elks in Ravenna. That's where they're distributing shots for the people that fall into different categories. So we'll be sending people down just to expedite. You got the vaccinations, we want to get them out. So each county only gets so many numbers of vaccinations throughout the state, and we want to make sure Portage County gets theirs and administers them to the public in that county. So a lot of the fire departments, ourselves and the area departments, are sending people down there so we can administer them quickly instead of having to sit around. And that's it.
I have a question for you, Chief. Thanks for all of your updates. Did you require your department to get the vaccinations, or was that an option for you?
That's an option.
Okay.
Just like the flu shot is an
Yes.
option. Just like, for example, when they come on, you get hepatitis B vaccination. So all of them are voluntary on their part. I strongly recommend it because we're exposed to what I call hazardous materials. Any body fluid from a patient, we can get sick in there in an enclosed cab, the back of the box. Even though there's ventilation, they're dealing with the sick people. So flu shots are voluntary too. We usually get tested for TB just to make sure we haven't had exposure. So we take all those precautions only because we deal with the sick public.
Sure.
So I'm happy to say about 90% of the department volunteered to get it. And some guys didn't want to get it, and that's their prerogative.
Okay, thanks.
Chief, does Portage County, you said starts next week?
Well, they've been doing Thursdays and Saturdays based on the 1A, 1B, and 1C. And it's defined what 1A is, like it's pre-hospital, medical care workers. The 1B is 80 years and over. Then they're going to slowly bring that down, and other occupations fall in there. So it's Thursdays and Saturdays at the Elks in Ravenna. And
The reason I ask is because they sent out a questionnaire, which I sent in, and I've heard nothing since then. It was through Portage County.
okay,
So I'm just curious, if it's starting next week, I'll check back with them.
okay.
Thank you, Chief Reinholds. Anybody else? No?
No.
Alright.
John, I have a question.
Yes.
If I wanted some discussion, further discussion on one of these items that was already moved, would we do that at the beginning? Could we do that, or should I wait until the item is brought up?
Can we do it when we get to that item?
I would think so.
Okay. Then I'll wait.
Just
Thank
let
you.
me know
Okay.
when we get there.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, item 6, introduction of legislation containing statement of emergency. T6978, amend 2021 annual appropriations number 1. Caroline, can you please read by title?
And ordinance amending ordinance number 2020-180, the 2021 annual appropriation ordinance.
Motion to suspend?
Second?
I have a first and a second to suspend. Can you please call roll?
Mr. Rudiger.
Yes.
Mr. Ring.
Yes.
Ms. Wagner.
Yes.
Mrs. Field.
Yes.
Mr. Kasisko.
Yes.
Mr. Hannan.
Yes.
Motion to adopt as amended?
Second?
I have a first and a second to adopt as amended. Can you please call roll?
Mr. Rudiger.
Yes.
Mr. Ring.
Yes.
Ms. Wagner.
Yes.
Mrs. Field.
Yes.
Mr. Kasisko.
Yes.
Mr. Hannan.
Yes. T6978 becomes ordinance 2021-09. T6979, authorize modification and extension of TTX contract. Can you please read by title?
An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a modification and extension of the contract entered into pursuant to ordinance number 2019-95 with Teletronics, Inc., doing business as TTX, for information and technology support and management services with additional services provided, and declaring an emergency in order to maintain continuity of services.
Motion to suspend?
Second?
I have a first and a second to suspend. Can you please call roll?
Mr. Rudiger?
Yes.
Mrs. Field?
Yes.
Ms. Wagner?
Yes.
Mr. Kasisko?
Yes.
Mr. Ring?
Yes.
Mr. Hannan?
Yes.
Motion to adopt?
Second?
I have a first and a second to adopt. Can you please call roll?
Mr. Rudiger?
Yes.
Mrs. Field?
Yes.
Ms. Wagner?
Yes.
Mr. Kasisko?
Yes.
Mr. Ring?
Yes.
Mr. Hannan?
Yes. T6979 becomes ordinance 2021-10. T6980, contract with TTX for services and goods. Can you please read by title?
An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with Teletronics, Inc., doing business as TTX, for the purchase of information technology services and goods for use by all city departments, and declaring an emergency in order to expedite the purchase and installation of services and goods.
Motion to suspend?
Second?
I have a first and a second to suspend. Can you please call roll?
Mr. Rudiger?
Yes.
Mrs. Field?
Yes.
Ms. Wagner? Mr. Kasisko?
Yes.
Mr. Ring?
Yes.
Mr. Hannan?
Yes.
Motion to adopt?
Second?
First and a second to adopt. Can you please call roll?
Mr. Rudiger?
Yes.
Mrs. Field?
Yes.
Ms. Wagner?
Yes.
Mr. Kasisko?
Yes.
Mr. Ring?
Yes.
Mr. Hannan?
Yes. T6980 becomes ordinance 2021-11. T6981, contract with TTX for software license and a move to the fire station. Can you please read by title?
An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with TTX Company, doing business as TTX Teletronics, for the purchase of Microsoft Exchange Server Standard User software licenses, and to complete the new fire department move and equipment necessary for city operations, and declaring an emergency in order to maintain continuity of services.
Motion to suspend?
Second?
I have a question about this. If we're, I think Missy mentioned that TTX, their contract is up. If we were to use a different company and they just put these into the fire station, does that change anything? I'm not sure if I'm making sense.
Let me grab the new company then will just have to maintain the hardware and run our licensing moving forward.
Okay. That's all I had. So I had a first and a second to suspend. Can you please call roll?
Suspend. Mr. Rudiger.
Yes.
Mr. Ring.
Yes.
Mrs. Field.
Yes.
Mr. Kasisko.
Yes.
Ms. Wagner.
Yes.
Mr. Hannan.
Yes.
Motion to adopt?
Second?
A first and a second to adopt. Can you please call roll?
Mr. Rudiger.
Yes.
Mr. Ring.
Yes.
Mrs. Field.
Yes.
Mr. Kasisko.
Yes.
Ms. Wagner.
Yes.
Mr. Hannan.
Yes. T6981 becomes ordinance 2021-12. T6982, authorize revolving loan fund administration agreement with the state. Can you please read by title?
6982, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to execute an economic development revolving loan fund administration agreement between the City of Streetsboro and the State of Ohio Development Services Agency, and declaring an emergency to expedite the agreement.
Motion to suspend?
Second?
I have a first and a second to suspend. Can you please call roll?
Mr. Rudiger?
Yes.
Mrs. Field?
Yes.
Mr. Kisiska?
Yes.
Mr. Ring?
Yes.
Ms. Wagner?
Yes.
Mr. Hannan?
Yes.
Motion to adopt?
Second?
I have a first and a second to adopt. Can you please call roll?
Mr. Rudiger?
Yes.
Mrs. Field?
Yes.
Mr. Kisiska?
Yes.
Mr. Ring?
Yes.
Ms. Wagner?
Yes.
Mr. Hannan?
Yes. T6982 becomes ordinance 2021-13. T6983, contract with Everbridge for reverse 911 Nixle services. Can you please read by title?
An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract without competitive bidding with Everbridge, Inc. to provide the city's requirements for emergency reverse 911 and community notification services, and declaring an emergency in order to maintain continuity of services.
Motion to suspend?
Second?
I have a first and a second to suspend. Can you please call roll?
Mrs. Field?
Yes.
Mr. Rudiger?
Yes.
Mr. Ring?
Yes.
Ms. Wagner?
Yes.
Mr. Kisiska?
Yes.
Mr. Hannan?
Yes.
Motion to adopt?
Second?
First and a second to adopt. Can you please call roll?
Mrs. Field?
Yes.
Mr. Rudiger?
Yes.
Mr. Ring?
Yes.
Ms. Wagner?
Yes.
Mr. Kisiska?
Yes.
Mr. Hannan?
Yes. T6983 becomes ordinance 2021-14.
Mr. Hannan,
Yes.
this next item, could we have some more discussion on?
Sure.
Thank you. I had a couple more questions about this. Was this on emergency because it's time sensitive as far as the contract goes? I don't know if Missy.
No, there's no contracts with it. They just gave us a quote for continuing the service that we had in 2020. So it's entirely up to us to decide if we're going to continue using the service.
Oh, I would like, if possible, if we could consider putting this on just as a first read.
Then they won't be able to do it because they can't get paid.
Oh, well, that was why
Right.
I asked if there was a reason why it was on as emergency. Okay, so that's the reason why it's on as emergency. Okay, so then my next thought with this, I guess I just,
Mrs. Field, if I may?
sure, yeah.
If we approve this ordinance, that doesn't lock us into, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it doesn't lock us into using them for the next year or whatever. We could end this service at any time we decided in the future, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Ruger.
No problem.
That definitely helps with my decision. Okay, thank you.
All right. T6984, contract with RKS Biohazard Division for cleaning services. Can you please read by title?
An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract without competitive bidding with RKS Management, Inc., Biohazard Division, to provide hospital-grade disinfectant cleaning services to city buildings, and declaring an emergency to immediately meet the necessary expenses of the city.
Motion to suspend.
Second.
I have a first and a second to suspend. Can you please call roll?
Mr. Rudiger?
Yes.
Mr. Ring?
Yes.
Ms. Wagner?
Yes.
Mrs. Field?
Yes, but I do have a couple things that I'd like to say about this. I understand the city is placed in a position that we're in as a result of what is happening in our world right now. So we have, it sounds like, enough to cover from the grant money for COVID. We have a week, maybe a little over a week to cover with this. And then we did budget money for this cleaning. I guess a little bit of this goes toward my feeling about the grant money. And this really has nothing to do with the city, it's more the state and the amount of money that they have given to municipalities to use for COVID kind of makes me sick, honestly. I wish that if the state had that much money to give, that they could have given it to the school systems or, I I don't know, I think there's a lot of areas that cities really could use a lot of help. And maybe that goes back also in addition to my general philosophy, if you will, that while it is our responsibility to make sure our working environment is clean and safe for the people who work here and for the general public, it's not our job to keep people safe from getting sick. That's just my personal feel on it. I do think it's necessary to keep places clean. I mean, we definitely want to keep our senior center as clean and sterile as possible, for our first responders and all of that. I guess the City Hall itself, I'm not quite sure how many people are actually coming in here right now and really using this space in this building. I think a lot of people are working from home. I also think if the general public does come in, it's just this main front lobby here, and everyone's required to wear a mask, so I think they're supposed to work. Maybe they're not. I have no idea. I mean, once again, there's a lot of my own personal opinions about all of this. I guess, call me crazy, but $4,000 a month, in addition to other cleaning expenses, just seems like a lot of money to clean. It seems like a lot. And I guess that's all. So I just definitely want us to be cognizant, as we know we are, about how we're spending the money, and if it's a requirement, I guess we have to do it. But I just want to throw out there that it just seems a little over the top. And this is coming from someone who I've always been. I like things very clean. I sanitize. I've always used Purell over and over and over. So, you know, I'm not saying, I don't know. But I felt like it was important that I at least express where I'm coming from on this. And once again, going back to that COVID grant money, knowing that now we can use it through 2021, it would have been nice if they had told us that, because we just spent $30,000 on some machine that's sitting in there that takes people's temperatures and does the contact tracing and the facial recognition and blah, blah, blah. I don't know. That's all.
Thank you, Mrs. Field.
Sure.
We need a motion to accept or adopt.
You have a hand, Mr.
Mr. Cisco.
Somewhat of a rebuttal. Gee, I'm surprised. Has anybody in your family or you contacted the virus yet?
That's actually a very personal question, but I'm going to go ahead and answer that.
Okay,
Yes.
well, then don't.
Yes.
Okay.
And Chuck, this isn't so much about the virus, because we could argue till we're blue in the face. I know we have different perspectives on it. It's absolutely real. It's out there. People are getting very sick from it. So I am not dismissing that by any stretch. I believe it's the reaction and the response that I have struggled with from the beginning. That's all.
Well, I look at the people here at City Hall, and that's why I brought up the issue that people walk in that door in the front there, you never know whether they're carrying anything, just like we don't know. And I think being cautious about this is the right place to go. And I don't know if it'll make you feel any better, but I do remember Missy mentioning before, Missy, about the things that RKS has done, and this is still in my mind. Some of the work that they've done and do not charge us for, or have not charged us for in the past. So there are things that are being done to kind of compensate, if that helps you any, excuse me. But there are a number of issues that they have helped us in the past, which saved us money. I think in the beginning, even the police department, they were helping clean out the cars and so forth in the beginning. Now, I don't know if now they're charging, but there was a number of areas that they did for grants. So, and now they're going to collect, okay? Again, I think it's money. It's expensive, but it's well spent if that could save possibly somebody getting the virus. Like I said, walking to the front door, or every one of us, I think it's worth the cause at the point. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kasisko. Do I have
Did
a,
everybody vote on the, did Mr. Hannon have a chance to vote on suspend?
Oh,
I did.
She did, and
I
then she
did,
gave
and then I
her
went off.
response, but I don't think Mr. Hannon had a chance to vote.
okay, and also, Mr. Kasisko did not vote on the motion to suspend.
Yes.
Okay, and then Mr. Hannon.
yes.
Okay.
Motion to adopt.
I have a first and a second to adopt. All the, can you please call roll?
Mr. Rudiger.
Yes.
Mr. Ring.
Yes.
Ms. Wagner.
Yes.
Mrs. Field.
Yes.
Mr. Kasisko.
Yes.
Mr. Hannon.
Yes. T6984 becomes 2021-15. T6985, ratify online auction of unneeded property in 2020. Can you please read by title?
5. A resolution ratifying the sale by internet auction during calendar year 2020 of city-owned personal property which was not needed for the public use or which was obsolete or unfit for the use for which it was required, and declaring an emergency to ratify the sale.
Motion to suspend.
Second.
We have a first and a second to suspend. Can you please call roll?
Mr. Rudiger.
Yes.
Mrs. Field.
Yes.
Ms. Wagner.
Yes.
Mr. Kasisko.
Yes.
Mr. Ring.
Yes.
Mr. Hannon.
Yes.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
First and a second to adopt. Can you please call roll?
Mr. Rudiger.
Yes.
Mrs. Field.
Yes.
Ms. Wagner.
Yes.
Mr. Kasisko.
Yes.
Mr. Ring.
Yes.
Mr. Hannon.
Yes. T6985 becomes 2021-16. T6986, allow internet auctions of unneeded property in 2021. Can you please read by title?
An ordinance permitting the use of internet auctions to dispose of certain property owned by the city and no longer needed for municipal purpose, and declaring an emergency in order to implement the procedure.
Motion to suspend.
Second.
I have a first and a second to suspend. Can you please read by title?
Now I'm gonna call roll. So
Oh,
this is
my
motion
bad.
to suspend. Mr. Rudiger.
Yes.
I just zoned out there
I
for a
get it.
second.
Mrs. Field.
Yes.
Ms. Wagner.
Yes.
Mr. Kasisko.
Yes.
Mr. Ring.
Yes.
Mr. Hannon.
Yes.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
I have a first and a second to adopt. Can you please call roll?
Mr. Rudiger.
Yes.
Mrs. Field.
Yes.
Ms. Wagner.
Yes.
Mr. Kasisko.
Yes.
Mr. Ring.
Yes.
Mr. Hannon.
Yes. T6986 becomes ordinance 2021-17. Item 7, first reading. T6987, amend ordinance number 2016-116, CRA legislation. Can you read by title, please?
An ordinance to amend ordinance number 2016-116, implementing sections 3735.65 through 3735.70 of the Ohio Revised Code to amend and clarify the City of Streetsboro's provision of abatements for the construction and remodeling of residential, commercial, or industrial structures, and declaring an emergency to facilitate development in a timely manner.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Item 8, second reading, there is none. Item 9, third reading, T6967, amend section 121.07 relating to council compensation. Can you please read by title?
An ordinance amending section 121.07 of Part 1, Title 3, Administrative Code of the Codified Ordinances relating to council compensation, and declaring an emergency to comply with the city charter requirements.
Motion to adopt.
Second?
I have a first and a second to adopt. Can you please call roll?
Mr. Rudiger?
Yes.
Mr. Ring?
Yes.
Mr. Kasisko?
Yes.
Ms. Wagner?
Yes.
Mrs. Field?
Yes.
Mr. Hannon?
Yes. T6967 becomes 2021-18. T6968, annual authorization to purchase replacement water lines and repair parts. Can you please read by title?
An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into contracts without competitive bidding with various vendors for the purchase of the city's requirements for water line replacement and repair parts during 2021.
Motion to adopt.
Second?
A first and a second to adopt. Can you please call roll?
Mr. Rudiger?
Yes.
Mr. Ring?
Yes.
Ms. Wagner?
Yes.
Mrs. Field?
Yes.
Mr. Kasisko?
Yes.
Mr. Hannon?
Yes. T6968 becomes 2021-19. T6969, annual authorization to purchase hydrant replacement and repair parts. Can you please read by title?
An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into contracts without competitive bidding with various vendors for the purchase of the city's requirements for fire hydrant replacement and repair parts during 2021.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
We have a first and a second to adopt. Can you please call roll?
Mr. Rudiger.
Yes.
Mrs. Field.
Yes.
Ms. Wagner.
Yes.
Mr. Kosiska.
Yes.
Mr. Ring.
Yes.
Mr. Hannan.
Yes. T6969 becomes ordinance 2021-20. T6970, authorization for 2021 asphalt preservation program.
Can I make a motion to amend this with
Sure.
the new exhibit?
Is that your
I
motion?
make that motion.
Second.
I have a first and a second to amend that.
To clarify, we're amending by adding one line to the matrix there to add NES Corp. Road Building Materials and Construction, so they can also purchase cold patch from them.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that is amended. And T69, can you please read by title?
An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into contracts without competitive bidding with various vendors for the purchase of asphalt paving products and incidental paving services necessary for the city's 2021 asphalt preservation program.
Motion to adopt?
As amended.
As amended.
Second.
I have a first and a second to adopt as amended. Can you please call roll?
Mr. Rudiger was second, so
No,
Mrs.
Mr. Ring was.
Mr. Ring. So Mrs. Field,
Yes.
Mr. Ring,
Yes.
Mr. Rudiger,
Yes.
Ms. Wagner, Mr. Kosiska.
Yes.
Mr. Hannan.
Yes. T6970 becomes 2021-21. Item 10, Mayor's Report.
Thank you, Mr. Hammond. The State Law 14 project will be sold on February 11th, 2021, or now shortly thereafter. As to move out to bid, we're looking for hopefully an April start. If the weather gets better, we'll see if we can't get going before then. Also, we are going to begin the right-of-way acquisition for the State Law 43 project, which will be next year. And a little bit back onto when we talked about the BWC government payment funds. I have to get together the road program here pretty soon, and I would like to know whether I'm going out with the $400,000 that we have remaining that was for the road project, or are we going to add anything to it to give us some more payment for the city? And I don't know if that's a discussion for another day, but I do have to get the road program together, and I do have to know how much money I have to work with in order to go forward there. And that's all I have.
Glenn, what time frame do you have to know that by?
Well, the sooner the better. I'd like to go out to bid on the road program here within the next month or so to make sure that we get an early start. A large part of the program this year is going to be an OPWC project, and that won't happen. We saw what happened this year. Even though we were able to use the funds, or have the funds available us through July, because of previous programming, they weren't able to get to us till September or October. And I don't want to go through that. We're going to go through a whole PWC, but I don't want to go through it with the regular city paving program. So I'd like to know so that we can get be one of the first on the schedule instead of one of the last on the schedule. As you guys all know, as summer progresses, the delays on starts end up sometimes profound, and we get a patchwork of work done. If you remember right, when we had the project on Phillip Parkway, there was a significant lag time between the time they worked on the catch basins and the time they actually laid asphalt down. And I'd like to try and keep that to a minimum if I can. So if council can bring this up, hopefully on when I have to decide, how much money I'm gonna put towards a road program, I would really like to, move in that direction so I can get this thing going.
Would you like this added to service?
We can put it on finance. My concern is, again, as I stated earlier, we don't know if we're really gonna have that money to spend. I mean, we don't. The revenues are down. They may not stay that way. They may get worse. We don't know. And to be able to budget it fully this early, I don't know if I feel that that's responsible. Is there a way that we can, is there a way that we can contingently, when you bid it out, can you say, well, these are the for sure, and then contingently, if funding becomes available, these would be next? I know scheduling that would be a nightmare for them, but I don't know, I just want to understand the process, because again, I don't think we're going to be able to necessarily be completely comfortable with spending any of that money this early in the year. Just is my opinion, but.
Well, we can certainly get the bids out for the $400,000 that's appropriated, and we can have add-ons. And if we feel comfortable at that time, usually it just is a similar go-ahead from us. You have to know before you started. But we can have additional roads put in there as add-ons, and yes, we can do that.
I think that would be the best case scenario at this point, my opinion.
Would you want me to base it on basically the $400,000 and an additional $250,000?
Ms. Wagner.
I would say, just by listening to all of this, that if it's a must-know answer right now, I would say then I would go with what the $400,000 you have, and then the money that you're working on right now, that $550, that would go towards an amphitheater, field house / whatever, and then towards any low budget we don't have to cover those. Those are the most important than the roads we've already budgeted for that. So if the answer would be, I need to know within the next 3 or 4 weeks, I would say go with the 400 you have.
No, I agree, Ms. Wagner. I think that was my point, is that the 400,000, Glenn, would be the knowing, yep, go ahead and let's do that. I would say at most, if you want to, because you have to know how much, I would say at most, if you want to say, hey, if we have this money, maybe another 200,000, just to put something on it so that the people know. Maybe we won't ever get to it, maybe we will, but if you need an idea of an amount, I would be comfortable with you just saying, if we could throw an extra 200,000 in there, what could we do? But not committing, obviously, anything.
All right, that sounds good.
Is that council
That's all I asked.
okay with that?
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
Anything else, Mayor Brosco?
Good. No.
All right, thank you. Item 11, President and Council comments. On the paving part, I was talking with Missy last week, and we kind of brought up that when we were doing the fire station, we were going to add the driveway into the paving budget for this year. So I just wanted to remind the mayor of that when he's considering what roads to pave, that we were planning on paving that main road into the new fire station. So that way it's not just kind of like pieced together. And I would also say even the new service garage too. I think right now it's just gravel. Like I feel like we should consider paving that as well, just so we don't have a new building with, that's getting dirty or whatever.
Do we need those monies to come out of the road program, though?
I'm not sure.
I would prefer they didn't.
Yeah.
If we're going to budget,
Just figured if
if we're going to budget for the fire station, then let's figure out where we can use that money from, but not the road program, because we have so little in it this year and next year.
Well, I just figured maybe we could look into doing that if the company's out here paving.
Oh, you mean to have him bid the driveways along with the road
Yeah.
program? Can you do that, Glenn?
For what now, you guys?
He's talking about like the driveway to the fire station.
Yeah.
You can bid that with the road program?
I'm doing it well. I'm doing what I want to do with it.
Oh, good. Okay.
That was the discussion.
It's
I just don't want to use road program funds for it. That's my,
No, it
I want to
wasn't,
take away from paving a
it
road.
wasn't, we didn't put it in the fire station budget, we took it out.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Right, but I don't want to take $50,000 or however much it's going to cost away from whatever roads we're going to pave for that. I'd like to find the money elsewhere if we can.
Right,
That's
okay, I
that was
gotcha.
my point.
Okay. And then, since the fire station is, did you have something, Chief?
It just, for your edification, the driveway, but also when they tear down the old fire station, there was talk about paving that over. And that's not included in the fire station budget.
Paving, what, where the old fire station was?
Yes.
I don't know if we want to do that, because if we're going to look at building other things on that property, I wouldn't want to have just a patch of concrete that then we have, or paving that we have to tear up then later.
Okay, I'm just.
I don't know, I'm just, what would we use that for, a parking lot?
There was no plan to pave over the footprint of the old fire station at all.
Okay.
It was to put a driveway in to access the fire department.
Right.
That was it. I don't want to lay asphalt down
No.
over the old footprint of the old fire station. I don't know what purpose that would serve.
I agree.
We tear it up, we get all that stuff out of there, we seal it, we go rest. And we put a driveway in for the fire station. That was the only plan that I had.
I just wanted to bring it up so we're all on the same page and we're not, that way we don't go out there and see a big patch of concrete and we're like, what the heck did we just spend $50,000 on for that? And then I was just going to say, Chief, thank you for all the hard work and detail that you guys have put into the fire station. I think that'll, save us from down the road when someone else is in there and they're like, what the heck, why did we put this here or whatever, so I appreciate that. Are we able to stop by and tour the, like if we contact you, can we take
Sure.
a tour of the fire station?
We have the combination locks to get in.
Okay.
The workmen are on scene from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. And right now inside, there's all kinds of workmen putting the drywall, the wiring. After 3 p.m., they leave. And it's pretty much, it's open to walk through. But yeah, anytime you want to come up there, the only thing you have to wear is a helmet and a reflective orange vest. But yeah, you're welcome anytime. Just give a call ahead of time and we'll take you through.
Thank you. All right, item 12, council member comments. We'll start with Mr. Kosciuszko.
First of all, Mayor, I want to kind of remind you, we talked about doing Pike Parkway this year because we did a couple, 2-3 roads last year instead of Pike Parkway. So I want you, all of us to kind of keep that in mind. We kind of just focus on the.
Yeah.
All right, well, I just want to remind you.
Yes, Parkway is scheduled on the low PWC program. Like I said before, we can't start that we can't start that till after July, so don't expect pavers out there on July 2nd, okay?
I'll call you on the 3rd. The other thing is, the mayor and I talked about the delay in some of these lights, and I had commented on Pike Parkway, and the mayor gave me his reasons why they want to keep the traffic moving, as an example, on Pike and 43. They want to keep the traffic moving on 43. It was I could have fried bacon and eggs and toast in the time it took to change that light, 2 minutes plus. Anytime you sit there, it's driving me nuts. You gotta cut at least 30 seconds anyway, because it's crazy. And not only that, if you're going south on 43 and there is no traffic, and it's happened more than once, going north or south, the green light to turn left when you're going south is on, and it's crazy because there's no cars, which takes another, 10 seconds or 15 seconds. If we could cut at least 30 seconds out of there, it wouldn't be so bad. But when you're talking about 2 minutes plus, you're sitting there a long time. You're wasting my gas.
Chuck, as I told you before, the National 43 and 14 are going to get priority. And 43 and 14 are, with the exception of square, are set up on a minute and 20 or minute and 30-second cycle, okay? If someone comes up to the light after the cycle has gone through, they will have to wait for a whole other cycle. So it's going to be another minute and 20 or a minute and 30 seconds. We're having a meeting with the designer, and we are going to change some of the operation of the lights after 8 o'clock at night to where it is a total demand type scenario where if a car pulls up on Pike Parkway and it will go and it will give it a 30-second change, okay? We've got a meeting come up here pretty soon. The traffic signals, we're getting down to the end of that, and we're going to go over each operation of each intersection individually, because there are some in the city right now, especially after 6 or 7 or 8 o'clock at night, that they don't need to be synced to give 14 or 43 a priority. They can be made so that when someone pulls up, there's going to be, once they're recognized, they'll be, depending on whether a cycle is completed, they won't have to go through the 2 cycles, they'll come right up. We knew this was going to happen, we planned for it to happen, but we had to let the system run a little bit. I know there's an issue with Pike Parkway, okay? There's no doubt. Until I don't know if we're even just going to remove that left turn signal out of there for the time being until we get the other lane in. But we know there's an issue with Pike Parkway, and we're working through that. Most of the other ones seem to be working okay. I know from talking with the police department that the patrolmen are reporting that the traffic on 43 and on Frost and on 14 is moving as good as it ever has, or it's moving a lot better than it did before. So are there some ghosts in the machine? Yeah, there might be, but we're going to figure it out.
Hurry. That's all right, thank you. I'm done.
Thank you, Mr. Hannon. I do have a question, or an observation first, but I thought when we discussed the preemption system going into the snow plows that they weren't going to be used unless the plows were actively pushing snow and plowing and having to clear the roads. And I noticed the other day, I actually got caught at it, where roads were clean, maybe they were salting, but the preemptive system was being used, and I got caught for 2 cycles at a light because of it, and there was no reason for it to be used at that point. They weren't pushing, they didn't have to have a continuous flow, they could have stopped and started. I just want to make sure that that's still the case, that we're not just using the preemption system on the plow trucks when they're not actually plowing.
Well, if I don't know were they salting it?
They might have been salting, but I don't think you need the preemption to salt the road. I don't know why when you plow.
I actually part of the manual on a learning curve to that, and this is the first one brought to my attention, so I'll definitely talk with Billy. And if we're actively plowing out there, and we've got a lot of heavy snow, yeah, that's one thing. But I agree with you, Justin. If it's just a normal everyday thing, and we're not behind, no, they shouldn't be using the preemption.
Great, thank you, Glenn.
Thank you, Mr. Ring. Ms. Wagner?
I have nothing, thank you.
Mr. Rudiger?
Thank you. Reminder, Groundhog's Day is on February 2nd, which is good because we'll know how much winter we have left. Yeah. And speaking of that, be very careful tonight and in the morning. We're under a winter weather advisory. Going to be a mix of snow and rain all night long, 32 and 33 degrees, which means freezing rain mixed with snow, which means could have a huge mess going through about from midnight tonight till about 8, 9 a.m. in the morning. So be careful to everybody who's going to be on the roads.
Be a weatherman.
What's that?
I think you should be a weatherman.
Yeah. But we'll soon know how long we're in this because Groundhog's Day is on February 2nd.
Very true.
I wanted to send an email a couple days ago, and I told this my mind, and I wanted to bring it up tonight. There's obviously been a lot of tension as of late, and I know I've seen it not only on a national level, but even on a local level where politicians and people of high notoriety have been targeted and whatnot. And I know as long as we've been on council, there's always been a representative from the police department here, usually the police chief or one of their designees. Up until COVID, there's only been one time when we didn't have a representative from the police department here, and it ended up being one of the most craziest, absurd nights that I can ever remember. And I'm just asking that if, for the future, if, as long as we're meeting in person, if we could have a representative from the police department at all of our meetings. So I'm asking Chief Wayne and Mayor Broska if that can be possible in the future.
Like a sergeant at arms, essentially.
Yeah, or, I mean, if Chief,
I actually think that's a really good idea, Mr. Rudiger.
thank you. So,
I'm definitely not opposed to that. I am highly aware that COVID is still flourishing out there, and I am much more appreciative of more of the starting Zoom meetings, including everybody that's at the meeting now. However, I will adjust to what you guys prefer. My preference is to keep everybody as COVID safe as possible, especially as my agency can't get vaccinated for quite some time as well.
understandable.
I think we want to be
That might be
lunatic
another-
safe, right?
What's that?
We want to be lunatic safe, though.
Yeah, I was just
Like,
gonna say, I
right.
think that's
if
just
we have
as
no-
important
No
as,
way to defend ourselves
Yeah.
at this point. If
And
someone comes in
there is, if you look at the meetings, there's really nobody here, so there's plenty of distance for a police officer if they were here to have plenty of distance. And maybe that's one thing we want to look at is going back to full Zoom meetings in the future. But yeah, if we could have that, that would be great. Next thing I wanted to point out is Groundhog's Day is on February 2nd, so everybody knows that. And then I've got one more thing, and I don't want to make a big deal out of this, but I did want to say that the employees that work here at City Hall and everywhere else in our city, and all of their families and everybody that they come in contact with, and their health are extremely important to me and I think a lot of other people that are in this room now. And I do feel that it is our responsibility to keep every single employee in the city as safe and protected from being sick as possible. And I think every one of you who are showing up to work every day, or even if you're working from home, and I want to tell you all how much I do appreciate you all and how much that I think it's important to keep each one of you safe. And I'd like to remind everybody that Groundhog's Day is on February 2nd.
Three
Thank you.
times.
That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Rudiger. Ms. Field?
I have nothing, thank you.
Thank you. Item 13, announcements. There'll be a safety committee meeting, a service committee meeting, a regular council meeting on Monday, February 8th, 2021, starting at 7 p.m.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
First and second to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We